Tonight's your actual anniversary.
Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. I'll wait a motion to leave the non-public and to seal the minutes of the non-public session.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And City Clerk Guevara, will you please take the roll?
Mayor McEachran.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Tabor.
Here.
Counselor Cook.
Here.
Counselor Denton.
Here.
Counselor Blaylock.
Present.
Counselor Bagley.
Here.
Counselor Moreau.
Here.
Counselor Lombardi.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We first have a proclamation on Children's Environmental Health Day in Portsmouth, and I'd be honored if Councilor Denton would be able to read this for us.
Gladly. I'll read it either. Whereas the purpose of Children's Environmental Health Day is to raise awareness about the importance of clean air and water, safe food and other consumer products, and creating healthy, stable environments for children's health and development. And whereas Children's Environmental Health Day was created by the Children's Environmental Health Network and celebrated for the first time on October 13th, 2016, and this day is observed annually on the second Thursday in October. And whereas this day celebrates the progress of the children's environmental health movement in building a strong nationwide network of children health advocates as individuals, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. And whereas the Children's Environmental Health Day is designated to rally individuals and organizations and raise awareness and understanding of children's environmental health issues, seek improved protections for all children, and encourage sustainable practices in environmental health wellness. And whereas working together, we can safeguard the health, safety, and well-being of our most precious resource for our collective future, children. Now, therefore, I, Declan McEachran, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim October 10th, 2024 as Children's Environmental Health Day in Portsmouth, and urge all citizens to observe this day with awareness of the opportunities to support environmental health and stewardship activities to create a healthier environment for our children.
Thank you, Josh. And I think we have Rebecca O'Brien here from Sustainability Best Practices to receive this proclamation. If you'd come up and take a picture with your kids.
Like it's Crocs.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Take an insurance shot.
Every time he takes this camera out and then takes another one.
Beautiful.
Hey, thank you guys.
I like your Crocs.
I've been wearing my Crocs. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No. It should, though. Who would know? I don't know who would be. Let's see what. See me crawling.
Next up is Fire Prevention Week, which is October 6th through the 12th. I think we have Fire Chief McCullen here, and I think did I see Deputy Chief? Oh, Pat Ho, right back there as well. All right. Whereas the City of Portsmouth, which has experienced many devastating fires in its history and is vigilant in ensuring the safety and security of all of our residents and visitors, and whereas fire remains a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, with home fires causing more than 2,700 U.S. deaths in 2022, and fire departments responding to 360,000 home fires. And whereas we know working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in home fires almost in half, yet 3 out of 5 fire deaths happen in homes without working smoke alarms. And whereas best practices recommend that Portsmouth residents should install smoke alarms inside and outside every sleeping room and on every level of the home because they sense smoke well before you do and can provide essential minutes for your family to escape to safety. And whereas Portsmouth residents should test their smoke alarms at least once a month and make sure they are placed to meet the needs of all family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. And whereas research shows that those who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more likely to respond quickly and calmly and effectively and therefore survive a fire. And whereas the Portsmouth Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through fire prevention and protection education, so Portsmouth residents understand how to take personal steps to increase their fire or their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas in 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, smoke alarms, make them work for you, reminds us of the importance of having working smoke alarms in our homes. Now, therefore, I, Daigle McCachran, on behalf of Mayor of Portsmouth, on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim October 6th through October 12th as Fire Prevention Week in Portsmouth and urge the entire Portsmouth community to ensure they have working smoke alarms in their homes and businesses and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Portsmouth Fire Department. Given with my hand in the seal of the City of Portsmouth on this 7th day of October 2024. Thank you guys for all you do. Come up and take this. And check my smoke alarm.
You should get the nest ones. The nest. They would connect to. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the proclamation and would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to remind everybody at home to make sure that they check their batteries in their smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms, and to ensure that you change your clocks when you change your batteries. Okay, so thank you.
Reminds me that I told my mom I would change her batteries for her on her smoke alarm, so it's a good reminder, and thank you, Chief, for all you do. Next, we have a proclamation bringing attention to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I've asked Councilor Moreau to read this proclamation.
Whereas October was declared National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and in 1987, because domestic violence is prevalent in every community and affects all people regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality, and whereas we know that 1 in every 3 women and 1 in every 4 men are victims of domestic violence in their lifetimes, and millions of Americans live in daily silent fear within their own homes. And whereas all domestic violence incidents affect every person within a home with long-lasting negative effects, particularly on children's emotional well-being and their social and academic functioning. And whereas here in Portsmouth since 2015, when a Safe Place and Sexual Assault Support Services, fondly known as SAS, officially merged into one nonprofit organization, Haven has provided support services and prevention education to those impacted by domestic and sexual violence, and whereas the City of Portsmouth has employed a victim witness advocate since 1999, with funding from the Violence Against Women Act to work with the Portsmouth Police Department to support domestic violence victims under RSA 173B, New Hampshire's Protection of Persons from Domestic Violence statute. And whereas in 2023, the city moved the victim witness advocate to the city's legal department to support domestic violence victims and to help identify and prosecute domestic violence offenders, together with our police department, schools, and healthcare providers. And whereas the city reminds everyone that confidential local help is available 24 hours a day at Haven Violence Prevention and Support Hotline, 603-994-SAFE. Whereas the city of Portsmouth stands with all New Hampshire prosecutors and sentries on the front lines, advocating on behalf of the victims of domestic violence, and now therefore, I, Elizabeth Moreau, on behalf of Degla McEachern, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim October 2023 in Portsmouth as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and call on all citizens to come together to reaffirm our commitment to ending domestic violence and supporting survivors. Given with his hand on the seal of City of Portsmouth this 7th day of October. On a personal note, I was actually the president of SAS when we merged with A Safe Place and became Haven. Last week, they celebrated 45 years in existence. When I joined that board back in 2008, it was our great hope to be able to put ourselves out of business, and that's unfortunate that we have not been able to. But I, having many victims in my family, really appreciate all of the work that the organization does, and if anybody needs help, please feel free to reach out. They would be more than happy to help, not just the victims, but the victims' family members as well, because the entire family needs support. Thank you.
And so we have members, Ryan Grogan, Jean Reed, Natalie Belleville, and Steve Gahn. Is that, I always get it wrong. Close enough. Gann. Oh, I'm always going to get it. If the council we could join down there for a photo. And the bridge is purple this evening in honor of this. Thanks for all the work you do at the prosecutor's office.
I'm sure.
That's fine. You want me to go on this other side? Here, I'll go.
That's good. That's better. All right. Everybody can see me. 1, 2, 3. Insurance shot. Awesome. Thank you. Wow.
Thanks, everybody.
Always friends me 1 year, I know now. Okay, motions move on.
All right. Is that everybody back in the seats? We are on to public comment. We have two folks that have signed up for public comment. We'll start with Frank Desper of the American Legion on the topic of the Wall of Healing.
Good evening, Your Honor, council members, residents of Portsmouth. My name is Frank Desper. I am currently the commander of Frankie Booma, American Legion Post 6 at 96 Islington Street. Our organization's motto is still serving America. American Legion's primary role is to support all veterans and their families. We also reach out to support the community through child and youth programs, such as baseball, basketball, Special Olympics, and Boys State. Moving forward, our post would like to add a healing mission to our veteran support. Post 6, membership respectfully requests permission to bring the Wall of Healing from Washington, D.C. to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and to display it at the Portsmouth High School athletic field. Our post believes that bringing the wall to Portsmouth will offer the community an opportunity to experience the healing effects it was designated to provide. Not only will it give the Vietnam veterans a chance to say goodbye to those friends with whom they fought side by side, only to have that friendship end abruptly. This wall will also give the community a chance to see the names of all of our comrades who have fallen during the Vietnam conflict. Along with the wall coming to Portsmouth, the Washington, D.C. coordinator will also provide us a training mobile center that will be offered to all school students, scouting troops, and any groups or individuals who want to learn more about our presence in Vietnam. In closing, the D.C. coordinator said that if any Portsmouth residents who have family members who have passed during the Vietnam conflict or in the years following from the after effects of being in Vietnam, we ask that those names be forwarded to us at Post 6 so the D.C. coordinator can develop a presentation to be added to the Mobile Training Center Remembrance Ceremony. We still have POWs, MIAs still unaccounted for from the Vietnam conflict. They too will not be forgotten. Post 6 believes that this project will provide an opportunity for healing for not only the Vietnam veterans, but for all veterans and their family members. Thank you for considering this request from Post 6 and for allowing me this time to speak. If our request is approved, I will keep the city manager updated on the project as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Next up, Peter Huda on Reval Calc without commercial valuations posted, ?
Good evening, Peter Huda, 280 South Street. So that's my first question. I would like to know, first of all, if number 17 on the city manager's informational items, the revaluation update, can be moved up so we can have this update sooner. Hopefully I won't be going over anything that you will be discussing because I don't know. So my first question would be, how can you give us a tax rate, 1120, when the commercial assessments are not out yet? Anybody who I spoke to on the commercial side has not received anything yet. So those people are still hanging out there. Please help. The next thing I'd like to ask about is, yes, my assessment went up 67%, but I cannot stand to sit on my front porch because of the sewer stench. So I would really like to know when the filters are going to be getting onto Pierce Island, because I am inland 5 blocks, and the people who are previous to me are dealing with the same thing. The other thing I'd like to remind you, one thing, Mayor. In the paper, 1650, 15 last year, 1613, babe. The next thing is real estate or property taxes are based on the budget, but are billed on the valuations. The budget has increased 18 to 20 million since this council has taken office. The number I want to impress on you, and keep that 18 in mind, is we had surpluses in the last 3 years that are available of $17,993,706. What does that tell you, Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Nobody else signed up for public comment? Not seeing any online. I'll wait a motion to move up the informational items under city manager's name, section 17.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll start, there's 2 under the update on the public information meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The update on the community policing facility is that we've selected a date for the public information meeting. that will be held on Thursday, November 7th at 6 p.m. in this room. And we will spend as much time as is desired by the community in a give and take of presenting and listening to questions and providing as much feedback and backup as that we have on hand. And also by way of update to the council, staff met with the staff assessment firm Matrix today, and in an effort to get a contract underway, and we expect to have contract details worked out within about a week, and they will get straight to work on the assessment piece. So that's the update on number one. We will publicize the public information meeting widely. Second will be the revaluation update, and I have with me my colleague, City Assessor Roseanne Lentz. She's got a short slide deck that I'm going to bring up now. Thanks, Roseanne.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm just going to give a brief update on the commercial revaluation and the preliminary values. So the first slide you're seeing is the percent change between 2024 assessed values and 2023 assessed values and 2024 assessed values. What this slide is showing is that commercial values since last year have increased 40.1 or 40.2%, and residential values in comparison have increased 65%. Next slide. So with this slide, it shows you the percent change of commercial values by neighborhood. And what I've done is at the bottom of the slide, we'll tell you the general area of each neighborhood. So as you can see, neighborhood 301, which is the West Road, Banfield Road, Borthwick Commerce Way, Greenland, and Gosling Road, has gone up about 24.7%. And I'll just go over some of these. Neighborhood 305A, which is our West End area, has gone up the most, about 50%. Neighborhood 305, which is our downtown area, has gone up 44%. 304 is in various locations, which are on the outskirts of town, has gone up about 46%. Neighborhood 303, which is out towards Newington, Gosling Road area, has gone up 23%. Neighborhood 302, which is the lower end of Islington Street, Spalding area, and Route 1 has gone up 49%. And then neighborhood 306, which is South Street, Little Harbor area, Wentworth House Road, 25%. And the lowest is neighborhood 307, which is Pease Trade Port, which has gone up about 15%. This next slide just shows some of the commercial properties that have gone up, and Mike's going to speak to this a little bit more than me. So as you can see, our apartment buildings, which are our large apartment complexes, have gone up over 101%. Our primarily commercial, which is our mixed-use properties, which are located within our downtown area, have gone up about 81%. And then our apartments that are 4 to 7 units have gone up 76%. So if you just go down, you can see on a sliding scale where these commercial properties are falling in comparison to the market. Down at the bottom is our office buildings, which have gone up about 8.9%, and our professional buildings, which are like our medical office buildings, about 18%. This is just showing that the market in our office area has really been falling in value since 2019 to 2024, and this revaluation is adjusting those values. And like I said, I'll have Mike speak a little bit more on that slide because I'm sure you'll have some questions. The next slide just shows the percent change or the percentage between commercial and residential properties. What I'm showing here is where our property values were in 2023 to 2024. Our residential properties were at 58% to our commercial properties, which are at 42%. Today, the change is adjusted where the market has changed. The residential properties are at 62.4%, and the commercial properties are at 37.5%. So it's just showing that the residential market is still outpacing the commercial market. The commercial market, although it's strong in certain areas of town, the residential properties is still picking up the majority of the value within the city of Portsmouth during this revaluation. The next slide just shows you a calculation of where the taxes are on a percentage basis. So if your property increased, there was 79 parcels that had no increase in property taxes. There's 1,543 properties that went up less than 5%, that had a 1% to 45% change in assessments. 3,355 properties went up between 5.4% to 11%, which is about a 46 to 60% change in value. 3,045 properties went up between 11.6 and 25.3% in taxes, which is a 61 to 80% increase in value. 554 properties went up between 25 and 39% in taxes, which is about an 81 to 100% increase in value. And then 307 properties went up between 39 and 50.8%, which is about 101 to 117% increase in value. Those values that went up greater than 118% went up about 50.9% in taxes. So in all, a 44% change in value is at least zero or is at near a 0% increase in taxes. So I'd like Mike to go back over this one slide, which is the estimated values by use.
Sure. Hello again. So basically, just to talk a little bit about what is going up more in value and is over the last couple of years. Apartment buildings are still extremely strong in the values that are going up. The primary downtown with the mix of retail and apartment buildings, its location has been very strong in the community, along with condominiums. The retail and office condominiums have been strong. A lot of them are located in the downtown area, which is the most desirable area. Some of the average type increases in the groups where warehouse has been strong, and then the retail stores, mostly downtown area, but also in the peripheral area has been strong, along with some of the R&D. Not that we have a lot of it here, but what it is has been fairly strong. The areas that have been weaker have been the office buildings over in the Pease area. The office buildings downtown have been pretty strong, but the Pease area has been a lot lighter and has actually been flat. And professional buildings are going up, but with the office building area still on the lower end. The hotels and motels have been bounced back well, and they've increased, but they're still on the lower end.
So to answer the question concerning commercial values and them not being posted and not being calculated as part of the estimated tax rate, they were completed when that estimated tax rate was determined. Thank you. And all those values are posted online right now through the report tool that's on the assessor's webpage. And notices are in the mail. We were expecting them to be in the mail tonight or tomorrow, but they should be received at least by Wednesday. Commercial appointments are open right now, so if anybody wants to go out online and look at their assessment on the report tool for commercial value, you go right ahead. The property record cards won't be available yet. They're still working on them. But if you see your assessment and you want to talk to somebody about it, those appointments are open right now. And for the commercial values, you can come in and get your property record card in my office right now. It is available in my office for people to look at.
Through the mayor.
By tomorrow, Mike's thinking
And
they should be
Roseanne,
up.
the tax rate you've mentioned, that's preliminary and estimated. That is not by any means a final rate. It's-
Not at all. Not at all. It's just preliminary. As we've stated before, the state of New Hampshire sets that tax rate. These are preliminary values. The results of the hearings that we're having right now could change values that could adjust that tax rate. So everything right now is just estimated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne. I saw Councilor Bagley and then Councilor Cook and Councilor Taylor.
Thanks, Your Honor. First, a comment, just because it can be a bit confusing online. The Vision Online database isn't updated online yet, but if you go down one and you click on the Sales and Properties Research tool, you can see all the commercial values. My question pertains to hotels. The my general understanding is in the current time is our hotels have low vacancy rates and are able to charge a premium, but they've only shown a 25% increase in value since 2019. Does that the time during COVID when hotels were not in use, does that get factored in, or do we just look at it kind of a snapshot of the last year when we're looking at the valuation?
Sure. Well, 19 was a very strong time, and then 20 came, and obviously everything stopped. And it's taken a little while for, occupancies were 70, 75% in 19, and then with COVID, they were down to 20 or 25. Slowly eased up by 21 and 22, and now they're a little stronger than they were in 19. So they're back up to like 75 in that area, 70, 75 to 80. Obviously, it's a seasonal area, so there are times when it's booked and you can't get a hotel, and then there's times like in the spring and so forth where it's a lower vacancy or a lower occupancy. So, but it's strong, and it's stronger than it was in 19, and that's why it's gone up.
Okay.
20-25%.
So would it be fair to say then the reason hotels didn't advance so much, say compared to other types of property, is because in 19 they were already a very, very valuable asset, so to speak, with low occupancy and high rates they could charge for room nights?
They were strong, but the room rates have gone up a fair amount. That's why we're seeing the increase.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Bagley, Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. With this shift that we've seen to residential in the tax burden, I think it's safe to say that the elderly disabled exemption levels that we raised our numbers to about a month ago might not quite be equivalent to what they were receiving before. Do we have any numbers on that yet?
Well, the only thing I can say is that when we estimated it, we were looking at the median assessed value at that time, which was $750,000. Now it's about $762,000. How much of that shift is going to affect them? A lot of these elderly that are receiving them probably are not falling within the like 65% or more range. So that's something I would have to look at to see in what range they're falling right now.
And as a follow-up, do we still have time to increase that number at our next council meeting if necessary? To
You
make
can,
sure?
it's only the amount off the exempt value, not for who can qualify.
Right.
It would be next year that you would be able to do that, which would be my suggestion. If you wanted to increase it to the medium to follow the same patterns we have been for the past several years, then that, when we're done, I can get that final number for you, what the median increase was to residential. And then definitely next year, look at the income and asset levels, because I am seeing right now some people falling within $500 to $1,000 of that limit and going to see a substantial increase in their taxes this year because they were so close.
Thank you.
Or when they were so close.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yep, Councilor.
Thanks, Roseanne, for answering a lot of questions for us. The question I get from people is, my taxes have really shot up. Is everybody else having this happen too? And so if we go back to that breakout that you had,
Hold on one second.
I think that kind of
Last page.
illustrates.
Last page.
Yep, it's going to take me a second.
Oh.
You had two groupings of 3,000. Could we just, and there's 7,800 residential properties roughly. But I'm just trying to get a sense, let's go over that a little more slowly. Your brackets where taxes had gone up, 10% or more.
So what this is basically saying right here is if your assessment went up between 46 and 60%, you should see between a 5.4 and 11% increase in your taxes. That's making up probably about a third maybe, or maybe 50%.
Okay.
Maybe a little less than 50% of the values within the city of Portsmouth. And then maybe around 50% also are going to be going up more than 11%, between 11.6 and 25%. So this is both commercial and residential. These numbers are both commercial and residential.
Okay, so
not
these
just
are not
resi-
strictly residential.
Right. These are not strictly residential.
Okay. I think I can ask the question for your office offline, but it'd be helpful to know how many roughly stayed the same in their tax burden, how many went up, in that 5% to 11% strictly residential, and then how many were 11% and beyond.
For just residential?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that gives us a sense of how this is really impacting homeowners.
Okay.
That'd be great, thanks.
Council Moreau, first.
And you may not have the answer to this question. I'll start by saying that. So I want to compare it to, so I'm a commercial owner here, property owner as well as residential. And I, in my utilities as a commercial, when I get my Unitil bill for gas, there's a flat rate for commercial that like you have to pay the minimum no matter how much you use, but there isn't in residential. Is there a way to differentiate in property taxes like they can in utilities in that kind of way? No?
No, it's the same tax rate whether you're commercial or residential. There's no, well, and the only thing there is a difference is in the utility portion. The utilities don't pay us the school rate, but that's not something that I can differentiate like they can with your usage.
Thank you.
I mean, you can see the percent taxes that residential pay versus the commercial, whereas mine's just showing the values.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kind of to Councilor Tabor's points, and when you're talking about this chart here, which I think is helpful, where it shows where people fell, another tool that might be useful is, my understanding is if you took the estimated tax rate of 1685, which is what we anticipated using if we hadn't done a revaluation, multiply that by your house number, you get what your estimated bill would have been before the revaluation. And to get your current bill, you take the new reevaluation number and you multiply that by the 1120, and that's your current. And then the differential would tell you how much the reevaluation affected your personal taxes, either positively or negatively.
It would be hard to determine, I mean, because well, first, if your value changed in between 22 and 23, you're not going to see that because the revaluation's just changing that number. So
Okay.
if you had new construction or a building permit, you'll never be able to figure that out. Because that growth that we had is not separated out within these values. If you're trying to see what your percent change is due to commercial, you would never be able to figure that out by just comparing your taxes from one year to the next. You'll be able to figure out what your increase was based on the market, but in that is a percent change from commercial to residential also, which is very difficult to extrapolate out.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Tabor.
Yeah, and the other thing I have found really helpful is the tools that you've got in there. So when homeowners ask me about their assessment and their tax bill, estimated tax bill, I say, find your neighborhood, put your neighborhood into the comparison tools, and you can see all the sales in your neighborhood and all of the comparable reappraisals and increases in value in your neighborhood. And those neighborhoods are really tightly drawn. So you get a very clear picture. And I think it's important for residents to know that, we by law have to have the accurate market value of the property. That's not a choice. We have no say over that.
Yes, and the residential hearings have been going very well. People have used that tool. I believe they're coming in with a better understanding and knowledge when they're talking to the Vision team. So I think that tool has been a game changer for a lot of residents to be able to have the information in front of them when they go into these hearings, plus having the field cards and the property record cards online and available before they go into the hearings. So hopefully by tomorrow, those commercial cards will be available for commercial taxpayers to look at, and then start scheduling an appointment to come in and talk to somebody. So residential hearings are running through the 18th, which is inclusive of the commercial values right now. So you'll get a letter in the mail. It'll say that commercial value hearings are running through to the 18th, which is the end of next week.
Any other questions? Just had one, and Roseanne or Mike, first, thank you for the work that's gone into this. On the slide that talked about commercial valuations, how, in terms of making any changes to, say, some of the things, yeah, this is the one on office building or professional buildings in terms of zoning, how quickly would that take into account, or how would it be taken into account if zoning changes were made and the potential best and highest use of that property were to be able to be something other than it is right now, say, office research? Would there be a increase in the land that is then accounted for in the valuation process going forward? Obviously not for this valuation period.
So remember, everything is market driven. So for us to increase an area because you're increasing the zoning, we still have to look at what those properties would be transferring for with that potential change to the property. So I wouldn't be able to tell you right now. I would have to look and see what developers are coming in, what they start paying for these properties. Because you could have the zoning in one, a zoning in one area be similar to a zoning in another area, but the location definitely plays part of that market value. So the zoning could be the same, but the market value could be very different depending on the location of that zoning.
Fair point. But broadly speaking, if we took something on the bottom of the chart and allowed for something that was on the top of the chart, would it stand harbor a guess that we might be able to see an increase in that collectively throughout all of Portsmouth if the best and highest use, or at least as the market is determined now, potentially could occur there?
I would say it's possible.
Okay. Thank you, Roseanne.
Okay.
Appreciate again, and the work. And I guess last question after my last question, but if we have until is it the 18th that we've extended for hearings?
Right, we've extended it another week for the commercial properties.
Okay. Is there, and if they potentially, when they get their, if they haven't been paying necessarily attention to this process, and they get the certified mail to their location, if they're outside of Portsmouth, and they want to, and we find that there's a large influx of folks that are reaching out as you did with the residential, is there a chance to extend that, or are we up against a deadline to be able to do so?
We're getting close to where I need to get values, because I still have to go in and look at all these values and make the changes based on the hearings, do some analysis if we see certain areas need to change. So we're getting to the point where I need to get the hearings done so we can get all these changes in the system, get the hearing notices back out to anybody that's had a change or no change that had a hearing.
Okay.
I've already extended the MS1 again because of the hearings, so I'm getting to a point where I need to get them
And
done.
typically, how many commercial property owners take advantage of the hearing process versus a more formal legal approach with a paid lawyer that specializes in abatements?
I don't think we really, I mean, a lot of times we have tax representatives that come in
Okay.
that look at a large grouping of commercial properties. I expect this year we might have some from the downtown area come in more so than before, but maybe like less than 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually a fairly small percentage. Even the residentials, with the big change.
You get, Mike, you
Been
just have to
reading.
speak into the
Yeah,
microphone.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Your voice carries, just not into the microphone.
Yeah, no problem. Better. The percentages, surprisingly, though, have not been increasingly high, like 10% of the community for commercial or the residential for the ones that we've seen. They've more been in like the 3 to 5% range of parcels. And I think a lot of it is just that people are very aware of what the market is and how much they've gone up and so forth. And although it's a large increase over a 5-year period, for the last 5 to 10 years, we've had about a 10% increase every year in the market in this area. And I think that is fairly close after 5 years, going up 60, 65%. It's like 12%, 10, 11, 12. So I think people actually understand that. So the increase has been, or the number of hearings that we've had has been in like the 5% range. The commercials, a lot of times, some of the reps themselves will probably wait till later and do it in the appeal process. But I think individual people will come in during this time and go through different things and have questions on it. As you can see, it's quite a variance of increases depending on the types of property. So we may see some of the apartments because they were very high increases.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are now on to the public hearings and vote on ordinances. We have the first hearing of ordinance amendment to Chapter 7, Vehicles, Traffic, and Parking, Article 10, Towing, Section 7.1004, towing or immobilization of motor vehicles for non-payment of parking fines by amending the ordinance to reflect current procedures, delete and revise outdated language, change notice provision, and increase fine for violation for removing immobilization device.
Your Honor, I move to pass first reading and schedule a public hearing and second reading for the October 21st, 2024 City Council meeting.
Second?
Any discussion? This is, and to just characterize this, is so that we can alert in many ways the, with stickers on the vehicles themselves so that they, you don't have to wait on a piece of mail that you might think is junk mail. It's actually a little more important than that. Okay.
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, public hearing, second reading of ordinance of amending Chapter 1, Article 17, Sections 1.1700 through 1.1709, funding, review, and acquisition of public art as shown in Exhibit A. And we have a presentation. Councilor Cook?
Your Honor, we had our presentation at our last meeting.
Oh, that's right. Totally forgot. We're back doing it again.
I should note that Chair Dwyer is here if anybody does have any additional questions, and I'm also happy to answer questions.
So any city council questions? Any public hearing speakers? Rising 2 for, against.
Deidre Huda, 280 South Street. This is not too for or against. This is a question that probably needs to be answered. On section 1.1702, public art commitment. My question is, 1% of the bid price or negotiated contract price of the construction of capital construction appropriations for any public construction projects, excluding roadways and utility infrastructure. Next sentence, but not excluding facilities such as pump stations and treatment facilities, in which the bid price or negotiated price shall be 5 to 30. So, according to Wikipedia, pump stations and wastewater treatments are utilities. So in one sentence you're saying they're excluded, one sentence you're saying they're not. The other point I want to make on this is, so basically on this, you're saying these capital projects that taxpayers fund through bonding, premiums, and principal, you want to add another 1% to the cost of a pump station or the sewage treatment facility. The taxpayers are paying increased water sewer bills now for these facilities, and you are adding more cost to put art on a pump station or a wattage or a sewage treatment station. When is this going to stop? So you need to think about the contradiction that's in here. And I would ask you, just like we talked about putting art on the Pierce Island station and thank God we located it at a different place. This is the same concept. And think about how much you're adding to this. This would be, on a $30 million project, up to $300,000 more on the beginning contract price. So please answer the questions. This is very contradictory, and you probably need to rewrite it. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra.
Yeah, maybe I can help with that. Chris Dwyer, 600 Broad Street. You know, Peter just mentioned, like, the Pierce Island wastewater treatment plant. Of course, for good reasons, the art was located will be located on Pierce Island for the public to enjoy. So the this ordinance, the correction to this ordinance, makes it clearer that the money need not be spent exactly on the site. But when you think of a pump station in a neighborhood like the ones that we see as we enter Portsmouth, in fact, I was thinking about that the other night now that we have that wonderful codfish sculpture that's up that I hope you've seen along the highway.
What up?
We go right by it, and yet then what do we see as we come into Portsmouth? A pump station. And it has been made to look better. It was made to look better a while ago by Public Works by putting the welcome sign out in front of it, by putting some flowers there. But that's a great example of a place that would have really benefited by a little public art. As far as definitions, I would leave it up to our legal department rather than Wikipedia to decide what the best way to describe the intention is. But the intention is for a building like that, or for the one down, right in the South End neighborhood that many tourists walk by, to think of how we could make that look better. Pump stations have to be where pump stations have to be. We understand that. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't look better or couldn't be, in fact, something that would detract from the fact that it's a pump station and actually make it look something attractive. And I particularly have my eyes on the one that you enter Portsmouth to see as a pump station. I mean, that seems like a good part of our gritty history, but maybe it could be made a little bit more attractive. So I don't know if there are any other questions about that.
Councilor Bagley,
Thanks, Senator.
question for the chair.
Two questions, and this might be more of a technical question, but the 1% for art, what happens if it's a pump station like out in Madbury or something? Is it only within city limits that this applies?
That's a really good question. I think other communities have handled, or the state has handled percent for art that way by, let's say, taking Madbury as its function. Its function has related to water pipes, water system, and there might be something that we could do in order to reposition where that public art would be. It's certainly an opportunity that the council always has to make that decision.
And that might answer my follow-up question, which is when we, like the sewer pumping station in the South End and the bridge and that White House that the city owns, that will probably be a very complex and expensive project. There'll be an opportunity for the current council at that time to say it's a 0.5% for art because of budgetary constraints. This doesn't tie a future council's hands, does it?
No, it doesn't, and there's also limits on what the amount.
Limits
goes
on the
to.
amount, yeah.
They're built in. Councilor Cook, a question for the chair?
Thank you, Your Honor. I was just going to clarify on that. This actually doesn't change the public art commitment that has already been in place. It just changes the amounts and clarifies language on what doesn't qualify and what does qualify. Because I think we wanted to make sure that there was no confusion around roadways or utilities under roadways, that those things really are not going to trigger this. And in the discussions that occurred in the Public Art Review Committee and in the Governance Committee, part of the goals of raising the lower limit to $5 million was that you really don't trigger this unless it's a major project. So.
Right. And I think if you think of roadways and associated utilities, that might help to clarify that the point that was made.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Any other questions? Councilor Morel?
Not so much a question, just a confirmation that the legal department has reviewed the language and is good with the language that was questioned.
We'll get to that, but we got to close. I didn't see anybody on Zoom first, and I always forget to close the public hearing, so I'm going to close the public hearing. All right. Your question again was if the legal department is, that they drafted is consistent with our intent to allow for structures like a pump station, but not for underground utilities?
Yes,
City Attorney?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What I understand the council's intent was to take the universe of roadway and utility infrastructure projects, to remove them from this particular ordinance, and then reincorporate back in specifically pump stations and treatment facilities. And that is, if that is what the council's intent was, that is what this ordinance accomplishes.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Cook?
Thank you, Your Honor. And that language was drafted by legal counsels, so to make sure that we incorporated the right things in that language. In fact, we initially had other language, and then the legal came back to us with additional language to clarify. So.
All right, I will be, Councilor Tabor.
I was just going to add, this came through the Governance Committee a couple of times, and what it does is clean up a lot of things. The 1% for art was in one part of our ordinances. The Public Art Review Committee was in another part, so these are now combined. It clarifies the powers and the duties of the Public Art Review Committee. It defines what's art and what can be rejected. It talks about maintenance and funding maintenance, and it preserves the freedom of the council, as we've talked about, to say, oh, maybe not up on the sewer plant in Pierce Island, maybe down where people can use it, or make the budgetary decisions. So it's come a long way.
Well, I am in fully support of the 1% for the art. It's walking past the foundry, you've always had kind of the sculpture of the ironworker there, but now the permanent installation of the pictures is going in, and they looked good before, they looked fantastic now, and to be surprised by something in a positive way around the city is fantastic. And to echo Chairperson Dwyer's comments about Mechanic Street Pump Station, there's an opportunity to incorporate that into the design of that, and it's going to be a real opportunity, I think, in some of the places where, as she said, you don't get to choose where you put the pump station all the time, but you can, with this, we can have a choice on what it looks like and how it impacts the community in a positive way. And I think in terms of pump stations, that's as good as it's going to get. And so I think being able to have this and the commitment, knowing that a council in the future can decide not to do it. I hope that they will decide to do it because, again, it's an opportunity to think about what art brings to us and the beauty that it does, and to think about a better world. So we'll be supporting this. Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that it is an honor to serve as the liaison to the Public Art Review Committee and to watch their deliberations. When the council set up the Public Art Review Committee just a few years ago, I wasn't sure how it would look in operation. And to see the technical knowledge and skill applied to the process and the amount of work that goes into a process of choosing a piece of public art, it's really an impressive process, and it's taken very seriously, and it's really an honor to watch the experts go through the process of choosing public art. So I think that giving them the ordinance that they need to do the work effectively, and combining all of this, the two ordinances and the different policies, so it's really clear what they're doing, is just going to be incredibly helpful in the long run.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
We need a
Oh,
motion.
we do not have a motion?
You
Jeez.
need a
All right, anybody,
Your Honor, I move to pass second reading and schedule third and final reading for the October 21st, 2024 City Council meeting.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Your Honor,
We got ahead of ourselves there.
I'd like to suspend the rules and move to pass third and final reading.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
and then move.
We need to move to,
Your Honor, I'd move to pass third and final reading of the changes to the Public Art Review Committee ordinance.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Your Honor, I'd like to suspend the rules to actually ask the one gentleman here what he's here for, potentially move that forward.
I think it's item number 2. Are you Stuart? I am. Number 2.
All right,
All right.
we are pretty close.
I'll take it up first.
All right, well,
Thank you.
we'll do it first. All right, on,
Your Honor, under city manager items which require action, I will take item number 2 first, because we have a member in the audience here to answer questions. The temporary construction license for 238 Deer Street is seeking an extension of the encumbrance, along with an additional, and the encumbrance includes 4 license areas. You will recall, it is set to expire October 31st. The owner is requesting a 5-month license extension from November 1st through March 31st for a total of 151 days due to unexpected project delays. The 5th encumbrance involves the 2 parking spaces located across the street from the property in front of the former Eastern Bank at 161 Deer Street. It's important to note for those who don't follow these projects on a regular basis that staff from the city and owners of all the construction projects in that area meet weekly, and that the other abutting properties and project proponents are supportive of the request here tonight under item number 2, and all departments have agreed to the terms of the extension.
Your Honor, I would move to authorize the city manager to execute and accept the temporary construction license extension to encumber the 5 license areas for 238 Deer Street as presented.
second. Any questions? Counselor Moreau and then Counselor Bagley.
I guess my biggest question is the new Area 5, since it's not abutting the actual property, exactly, I guess, what it's going to be used for? Or
We
what
ask
its
Stuart to come up.
purpose is?
Stuart, if you wouldn't mind.
My name's Stuart Mitchell, SJM Construction. I'm representing 238 Deer Street. Those 2 spaces, when we started, had parking off-site, and we've since lost it, so we don't have staging, we don't have parking. So these 2 spaces, when the bank went empty, became available, so they became valuable to us.
So you're using them for parking?
Predominantly that for offloading, so that we're not in the street. That's predominantly, not for like contractors, it's more for offloading, staging, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Counselor Bagley?
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I'll just comment. I have a number of friends that live in this area, and with, I think it's 4 major projects going on, I haven't heard very many complaints. So I just, with that much disruption, it seems like the city and the builders are doing a good job with a situation that's not easy to do a good job with.
Well, there's plenty of other construction to complain about, so.
There's plenty of other things to complain about.
Counselor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just curious, from the map, I couldn't determine where the best walking path is if you're coming down Deer Street.
It's the sidewalk in front of the bank. You actually have to cross because the project on the corner takes up that sidewalk, but on our street, on our side, coming down from Maplewood, and then you would cross and then go in front of the bank. And then you almost have to cross again because of the one on the other corner, but to the point that it's a lot of traffic in that area. Not just pedestrian, but construction traffic. There's a lot going on.
Yep, I think maybe something to take up with DPW around putting a temporary crosswalk there if people are crossing over, but outside of the scope of this.
Is it in the plans? I thought there was a temporary.
There is a
crosswalk in
temporary.
They're in the
Yeah,
plan.
there's
Okay,
a
it
number
is.
of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, there are a number of them.
Counselor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any problem with the encumbrance as long as the city makes sure that we have a really clear path for individuals parking in the Foundry garage.
Correct.
All right. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Back to item number 1 is a report back from the Fee Schedule Study Committee. Normally, we refer to it as just the Fee Committee. And the Fee Committee met specially on October 2nd to take up an item that was referred to it from the last City Council of September 23rd, which saw a referral relative to a new policy that the city could consider based on newly enacted legislation which allows municipalities to charge fees for certain electronic record requests. So in response to this brand-new law, city staff has proposed the city policy in your packet, along with a fee in the amount of $1 for unique records, electronic records, when the number of unique records exceeds 250. And the fee committee did meet on October 2nd. They recommend adoption of the policy and the fee as presented with, as I'm reminded by the deputy city attorney, one change to the language that requires that all responses must be provided in the time as required by law, as mentioned by Councilor Tabor.
Your Honor, I move to adopt the attached draft City Council policy for unique electronic records as presented with that addition, and add the fee of $1 for unique electronic records to the fee schedule as shown.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Item number 3 is related to the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund and the seeking of a grant extension. Back on July 10th of 2023, the council authorized the city to enter into a grant agreement with the state to accept a grant in the amount of $739,000 from the New Hampshire Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund. The grant would help us in purchasing 45 acres of conservation land with an easement on a parcel of land that abuts the Bellamate Reservoir. And we've encountered unanticipated delays in the easement purchasing process. And in your packet, you will see an email that suggests a conversation back and forth with the state. There was an email subsequent to the one that you have in your packet that suggests instead of seeking a 6-month extension, we would be smartest and most careful and most conservative to seek a 1-year extension. So the draft agreement in your packet does contemplate that. So the request to you is to support our extension request to the state so that we may tie all this up. And we anticipate doing that well in advance of December 31st, but just to cover our bases to keep this grant extension alive.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 of the grant agreement to extend the completion date of the $739,000 grant from the State of New Hampshire Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund by 1 year to completion date of December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. And thank you to Al Pratt for joining on Zoom. We're all set, Al. Thank you. Number 4 is an acceptance of community space easement and an access easement for water services for property located at 200 Chase Drive, known as the Connect Church property. Way back on February 20th, 2020, the planning board granted site plan approval, lot line adjustment, and a conditional use permit for parking to the church for the construction of a new 22-unit residential apartment building within the existing parking lot. As part of that approval, there were easements that were needed, and this approval was delayed by 2 court cases, which ended recently in the New Hampshire Supreme Court. And as such, we are now poised to recommend acceptance of these easements tonight.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to accept and record a community space easement and an access easement for water services from Bethel Assembly of God in a substantially similar form to the easement deeds contained in the agenda packet.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And lastly, tonight is a request for a revocable license for property located at 260 Marcy Street, owned by J&L Family Trust. The owner's existing concrete retaining wall and curbing is deteriorating, and they seek to replace it with a granite retaining wall and curbing along the border of its property, which abuts both Marcy Street and Meeting House Hill Road. As is the case and is not uncommon throughout the city, a portion of the original retaining wall and a portion of the new granite retaining wall and curbing lie outside the property's boundaries and within the city's rights-of-way. So as such, it's appropriate to seek to provide a revocable license in the event we need it to be removed for any reason, and a proposed license is attached herein.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute and deliver a revocable license allowing owner of 260 Marcy Street to replace their existing retaining wall with a new granite retaining wall and curbing on city property.
Second?
Any discussion? Counselor Cook?
Thank you, Your Honor. When we issue a revocable license like this to a property that perhaps was there before the roadway was there, that now we say the roadway is city property, do we take into account the initial deed for that property over time and the way that they were not necessarily recorded at the time, the same way?
Deputy City Attorney, would you like to weigh in on the property versus the easement on this?
Sure. It was most likely what happened here is that the retaining wall was erroneously constructed at the outset on city property. Unlike when you encroach upon private property, you cannot adverse possess against the state. It can't happen. So this encroachment on city property could exist for decades and decades, as it may have here in this case. But still, when the property, it's good practice when the property owner comes back then to rebuild and reconstruct what was pre-existing, is to memorialize that in an agreement, and that's really our practice here.
I'm asking these questions because I live on one of those streets where everybody's front step is in the street. So, and the street was there probably after the steps were. So the concern I have always is that, we talk about being able to ask them, it's a revocable license, that we could ask them to remove it, but if it's somebody's front step, then they can't get out of their house. So I just want to make sure that we're mindful of that.
Counselor Cook? Motion's on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now on to the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, presentations and written communications. We have email correspondence.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, a letter from Jesse and Scott Rafferty requesting their residence be removed from the historic district.
Your Honor, I move to refer the amendment of the zoning map removing 185 Orchard Street from the historic district to the planning board and the historic district commission for reports back to the city council.
Second.
Counselor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. And looking at the map, this request seems to make a lot of sense. The comment I'll have is, in my neighborhood, there's 4 houses that are technically in the HDC, but you can't see them from Middle Street. And I think those residents, if given the opportunity, might also be interested in this. So when we get the report back, could we get the report to be expanded to other houses that are in a similar situation?
Counselor Blaylock.
Thank you. I believe it is on the list of to-do items for the HDC to clean up that map. Given the original map has all the lots going all the way back to like Orchard Street, for example, and I believe the same thing's happening in your neighborhood, where the intent is to only have the lots that front Middle Street and Islington Street, So I know it is a lot, it affects a lot of lots on Middle Street. We've had some applicants come before us where they just have one little corner of their lot in the historic district, so that qualifies them as they need all approval from the historic district. So it is on the honey-do list as far as things to take care of. From the Historic District Commission, I know they wanted to try to clean up that map and send it to, I don't know if it's our approval for recommendation. I think this might jumpstart that process, given that it's affecting residents directly.
Your Honor, Council Moreau will confirm that what I'm saying, but recently the planning board was asked to support the subdivision of this lot, which initially had an address of Middle Street.
Middle Street. It went all the way back to Orchard.
And now that there are two parcels, this would, in order to the back parcel on Orchard.
Right.
That's the reason for this request.
And I believe that if the HDC wants to change the maps, I believe that would then go to the planning board before coming back here, if I'm correct. I think so. So maybe we have the HDC look at it first and send their report directly to the planning board, and then we can just bring it back here. It seems to make more sense.
Councilor Bagley.
Just to further that, I anticipate we may see a bunch more requests like this if this is successful.
You might be right. I certainly would support Councilor Blaylock as a part of the HDC having that conversation. Since this is this is started from the planning board, I would hope that we can solve this immediate issue that they have in a timely manner. The same speed for those others that haven't asked. I think it's good to make sure everybody's out of the HDC that is out of the HDC, but make sure that we get this done fast enough to meet whatever project deadlines they may or may not have as that resulted in this initial request. Councilor Boyd?
Yeah, Your Honor, I completely agree. I would hate to see this hold up any of their construction plans or any of their, or add any costs or anything.
Yeah, but we could probably, you guys can move fast on that. Councilor Lombardi?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This problem arose from the HTC line being drawn a distance from the street rather than for the property. And we've run into this a number of times. It affects the house on Aldrich Road, too. So it's been problematic, and it needs to be cleaned up. So it's good.
Excellent. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A letter from Meg Gilman regarding eliminating pesticide use in our communities and state.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place on file.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
A letter from Abigail Jindal regarding the increasing pesticide dependency tied to an imbalance in ecosystems.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place on file.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A letter from Michael Capillare requesting the city place a historical marker at the plains to signify George Washington's arrival in Portsmouth on October 31st, 1789.
Your Honor, I move to refer to the Public Works Department for a report back.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, a letter from Bob Korash regarding the construction of the community policing facility.
Move to accept and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, a letter from Frank Desper on from Frankie Booma, Post 6, American Legion, requesting to host the Wall of Healing during the summer of 2025.
I move to refer this to the school board for consideration.
Second.
And this, Councilor Morrell?
I was just going to say, I thought the speaker who came and spoke did a really good job in considering the school grounds aren't used as heavily in the summertime. It seems like a really great time to make use, so I hope the school board will consider this and try to make this happen. If not, maybe we can find someplace else that would be appropriate.
Yep, there's, I certainly appreciate the work that has gone into this and the intent, and, there's a lot that goes on in the city all the time, and the school is no different, but this is something that seems like we can make and find a place to make this work at the school or otherwise, given the timing, which I believe is a week, speaking to Frank before, and the importance of this and the opportunity to bring it to Portsmouth would be fantastic. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Letter from Courier Portsmouth requesting permission to hold the 3rd annual Halloween Skate Jam on Saturday, October 26, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Rain date of October 27th at the Portsmouth Skate Park.
Your Honor, I move to refer to the city manager with authority to act.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, a letter from Christine Groslo of the North Church of Portsmouth extending heartfelt thanks to the City Council for granting a fee waiver related to the construction project that will benefit the broader Portsmouth community.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place the letter on file.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On to council agenda, we have appointments to be voted. We have appointment of Sean Clancy as a regular member to the Coast Board of Directors, appointment of Jillian Harris as an alternate member to the Coast Board of Directors, a reappointment of Mark Siracusa, Mary Lou McElwain, Erica Wygonek to Parking and Traffic Safety Committee, reappointment of Robert Mahefka to the Economic Development Commission, and appointment of Brian Gibb to the Conservation Commission from an alternate to regular member.
Your Honor, I move to appoint Sean Clancy and Jillian Harris to the Coast Board of Directors, reappoint Mark Siracusa, Mary Lou Elwin, and Erica, how was it? Wygonek to the Park and Traffic Safety Committee, reappointment of Robert,
You can't even look at, you can't look at Mahefka's last name. It just trips you up. It's like my last name, can't do it.
to the Economic Development Commission, and the appointment of Brian Gibb to the Conservation Commission from an alternate to a regular member.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
You
opposed?
just say all of the above.
Yeah.
As
There's some tough names in there.
Yeah, so that was the advice from Bob. When I saw him at an event, I was like, I'm so sorry for butchering your name. He's like, you tried to read it. That was the problem. You gotta know
Bob
it.
Mahefka. I know how to say it that way. Robert Mahefka.
So this was and first, thank you for all willing to serve and to serve again. We run on your enthusiasm and volunteerism here in Portsmouth. Next, I had a request for a first reading of an ordinance to amendment to exempt structures which do not require a building permit from zoning requirements. Now, the goal of this was to get legal's feedback on the code under the building code that does not require a permit. Not every structure requires a permit, but our definition of structure is very broad, and instead of trying to eliminate things from that, from the zoning ordinances on a case-by-case basis, I thought we would be able to take a stab at taking what's in the building permit and what everybody agrees from the national to the state to the city believes that we don't actually need a permit for safety reasons, to be able to exempt those from the requirements of an ordinance. And would look to have a motion to allow legal to come back with a draft language for consideration at a future city council meeting.
Your Honor, I move to refer to the Legal and Planning and Sustainability Departments to draft language for consideration at a future city council meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Bagley?
Is this like if you got one of those Rubbermaid sheds for like bicycles or trash cans or things like of that nature?
Yeah, so typically, so like a Rubbermaid shed is a structure as defined by our ordinance, even though it's assembled and could be considered temporary. Again, this was originally on my radar from Treehouse Gate, a long time ago, where, that would have not been allowed actually in the building permit because it was much larger than is allowed in a doesn't have to go through a structure, so that would not have actually been able to go through, but most tree houses are, on lot lines, and so, that was another one. Fences, there's a lot of fences that don't require a building permit, but yet folks are having to come, get a variance. And, I understand that we've built a lot of laws and ordinances for the express purpose of people who have wanted those before, but when we take away things, I think it empowers all of the other laws to give them more credibility, that they are there for a reason and not there just as a vestige of the past that we haven't been able to clean up. thinking about a way to be able to do that. First came across this, these exempt structures, and I thought this would be a way to start instead of trying to go, one by one and see how it works. We can always change it.
I think it's a great idea.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Councilor Blaylock.
Thank you, Your Honor. So just an update from the Sister City Committee. We currently have 12 students and 2 staff members visiting from Sant'Angelo. They are staying with host families in Portsmouth. Today they had a nice lunch reception at the high school. And props up to the high school because this was all organized by Portsmouth High School. And the props to the families that are host families and hosting the students and staff. They will be coming to City Hall this Wednesday, October 9th, and the mayor from Sant'Angelo will be here to meet Mayor McEachran, which is very exciting. Then they visit Little Harbor, they're downtown the year before, and they take off the 10th, Thursday. And the very next day, 17 students and 3 staff arrive from Nichinan, Japan, who are also staying with host families, also organized through the high school. So they arrive on the Friday the 11th. They're visiting with teachers or host families, tour the school. They have a school assembly next Tuesday. And they're visiting Little Harbor downtown, and then they'll be visiting City Hall and hopefully meeting up with Mayor McEachran again. Again, these are long-standing relationships. A lot of work has gone into this. A lot of people have worked on organizing these trips. Next year, we'll actually be celebrating the 120th anniversary of the Treaty of Portsmouth. So that will be a very big deal. I know this year the students and staff from Nichinan were hoping to go visit the shipyard. They actually have a replica of the building 6, I believe it was. Whatever building the peace treaty was signed at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Nichinan, they have a replica of that building. But it is so super important. Very important to celebrate. So next year will be a big deal when they come to visit. But I hope if you see students from Nichinan or students from Sant'Angelo, then please welcome them to Portsmouth. And yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Blaylock, and for all the work that done on the Sister Cities Committee. It's great to see that come back into full force, and I know it's just the beginning. So thank you for the work on that.
Oh, and it's Sister City International Day, right, on the 16th, October 16th. So Mayor will be reading a proclamation to
It's
the
almost
students.
like we planned it.
Yeah. So good timing.
Stephanie, for all the work she's done on that as well. All right, we have no approval of grants or donations. We've gone through the city manager's items. We could do about an hour and a half or so of miscellaneous if we wanted to get through it, or I'd wait a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Portsmouth.